We should notice that Vertanez, in his discussion of the image of the cross with the human face, introduces the image as a substitute and a replacement for the pagan idols. He says, in place of idols of wood, Christ has raised his cross in the center of the universe. This notion of a conflict or a contest between Christian and pagan images is extraordinary and indeed is unique to Vertanez. No other defender of icons uses such an argument. It must have had a special meaning in the Armenian situation because he develops this replacement argument a little further on with several examples. In Armenia, the temples of the pagans were still standing and active in the 7th century. I show the temple of Garni, restored in modern times, but it was still standing and probably functioning in Vertanez's time. It fell down in an earthquake of 1679. Vertanez says, if you read St. Paul, you ought to study to understand good and evil, to distinguish what is of God and what is of the devil. Do you not know that in the temple of idols we see sculpted Ormizd, that is Aharmazd, his fornications and magic. Ormizd was the Zoroastrian creator god. But in the Church of God, we see painted the Holy Virgin carrying on her knees Christ, who is both her Son and creator of all. And he continues on in that vein. In the temples of idols, we see Anahit and her disgusting temptations, while in the churches of Christ, we see painted Gregory, and so on. In the temples, we see Ashtgit and Aphrodite, whom all the pagans name the mother of desires, and their drunken debaucheries, while in the churches of God, we see the divine cross and the files of the apostles. The discourse is in the present tense, implying that the pagan cults he's describing were still active and vigorous at the beginning of the 7th century. For Vertanez, the Christian images were weapons in a contest with paganism. It is significant that the images of Ormazd, the Zoroastrian creator, are said to be replaced by images of the Christ child, whom Vertanez calls the creator, seated on his mother's lap. Of the mother of child icon, we have numerous examples in the relief sculptures that have survived from the pre-Arab period, and these must be interpreted as faithful copies of wood panel icons that were in circulation in the early Christian world. In the Church of Odzun, a relief generally dated to the 6th century is housed in a niche in the north wall, its original placement being unknown. That's on the left-hand screen. This relief copies the most widely circulated Marian icon. In fact, it is the very same type which Grigoris and Mama Hatun would be worshipping in the 14th century. Mary holds the child with one hand and makes what I call the Isis gesture to her breast with the other, and it can be compared with the wonderful Berlinghieri icon in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. All the most important types of Marian icons show up in these early Armenian reliefs. On this base of the Tallinn stele, we find Mary seated on a throne with her child in her lap, flanked by angels. It's on the base down here, and here we see it in a detail. So this is a second Marian type of icon, and we could compare it with a number of early Christian icons that do survive. The Santa Maria in Trastevere icon, recently redated to the 6th century, and the famous Sinai icon, also dated to the 6th century, the Mother of God enthroned. You see the angels here are joined by a pair of saints, perhaps Theodore and George. On either side, the angels are above. But the relief in Tallinn is a copy of an icon. On a second stele from Tallinn, we find still another type of an icon of the Mother of God. You see down here, this could be compared to an early icon of Santa Maria ad Martires in Rome, that is the Pantheon. In this type, the mother holds the child in front of her in a kind of presentation gesture.